Hello.
Welcome to Pure Crack with Sláinte Theatre. This is our new podcast. This is episode 1. The whole podcast is basically going to be about Irish and Scottish creators in London, their journey, and some exciting stories for you. So we thought, seeing as it was our first episode, we would just talk a bit about ourselves.
It's just family.
Just family. So I'm Aaron Devine. I am co-creative director of Sláinte Theatre and podcast host, apparently.
I'm Iona Bremner. I'm creative producer of Sláinte Theatre.
I'm Kari Hall, and I'm the co-artistic director of Sláinte Theatre.
So, we're just going to talk a little bit about ourselves and kind of what brought us to where we are now and why we're in London. I only came on board as Sláinte in November as co-artistic director. I've been in London for 2.5 years now, since September 21. Grew up in Belfast. Always did like acting and musical theatre and stuff, really enjoyed it, but wanted to be a doctor, which is going really well, obviously.
You're taking an untraditional route.
Yes, exactly. I'm going to leave acting and go into medicine. So I wanted to be a doctor the whole way through school. And then when it came to like university and stuff, I didn't get into medical school, which is great. Did biomedical sciences for 3 years in Cardiff. Loved it. Loved Cardiff. I was like, say it all the time. But when I was there, I joined the Drama Society, and pretty early on it was like, no, this is actually what I want to do. And the Drama Society was just amazing. And in school I'd only ever done musical theatre, but when I joined in Cardiff, it was Act 1, it was called, it was great. It was like acting, plays, The Importance of Being Earnest was our first one. And I was like, yeah, this is it, this is what I really enjoy. And pretty much since then I was like, this is what I want to do. So yeah, pretty much halfway through first year I was like, I want to be an actor, I don't want to go into medical school or do research or whatever. So continued that, finished my degree. COVID hit. So I graduated in 2020, moved to Glasgow for a year, which was wonderful.
Big up Glasgow.
Yeah. I mean, I actually do really miss Glasgow.
We all miss Glasgow.
Yeah, such a fun place.
Beautiful place.
But I was there when COVID was kind of happening, so for the first kind of 6 months or so, I was just kind of stuck in a flat. But I did a part-time course at the Royal Conservatoire of Scotland, which was great. Met some wonderful people. Worked in Hollister for... Am I allowed to say that?
Sorry, what a fact drop.
Did you not know that?
Don't think I knew that.
No.
Aaron worked in Hollister.
I
was a Hollister babe.
Yeah, I was the guy at the front door who was like, hey guys.
No, you weren't.
I genuinely was.
Were you actually?
Genuinely was.
Did you work in Hollister like before or after they started turning, when they used the lights used to be really dark in Hollister?
They were so dark.
They sprayed the smell out. Yeah.
So I worked there for a while. I was the guy
in Glasgow.
In Braehead, yeah.
In Braehead?
Yeah, in Braehead, yeah.
Hi Hollister. I was not there.
Hollister.
I was not there at that point.
Yeah.
I maybe went once as a teen and got a dress.
Oh, I hadn't been in a Hollister since I was about 12, so I went back in and was like, wow, this is weird. So I auditioned for drama school when I was in Glasgow, all like online stuff, and got the offer from Central. And I was
You
like,
did audition online?
Yeah.
Wow.
So we did do self-tapes, and then I had a Zoom audition, and got the offer. I was very surprised because I didn't think it went very well. But and then moved to London, went to Central, studied on the MA Acting for Screen at Central, had a great time, wonderful people, again, surrounded by wonderful people. And then graduated, and here we are, I suppose. It's been a wild ride since then. Just been acting as much as possible, writing some stuff. I've written and produced 3 or 4 short films, and currently finishing off a play with a very dear friend of mine from Cardiff, Kim Taylor, which hopefully we'll be putting on the end of this year.
secret.
Not
You
allowed
have to
to
wait
tell.
for
Haven't been announced yet.
Yeah, it hasn't been announced yet, but just
Tune in next week.
tune in next week to hear what it's called. But yeah, just, you know, and then obviously saw Slainte on Instagram and was like, hey, they're looking for actors. Got involved.
You emailed us twice. You're like, just checking you got my email.
I'm so keen.
Yes. No, we love it.
Yeah.
I love someone who has the assertiveness to like,
Yeah.
I will call you out again.
Yeah.
You should.
Exactly. So
Every company all the time.
yeah.
Kari hates it.
I don't hate it.
But
Yeah.
we do get people who apply for things multiple times.
Yeah.
I'm always like, chase us more because
Of course.
we want to work with you. It's just we get too many.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so many people. But anyway, so I emailed in. I was like, hey, you're looking for actors. I'm an actor. Worked with you in July. And
Apparently.
then came back in August. And then came back in September. And then came back in October. And you were like, hey,
Come on.
this is
We're
a bit
going to have to change
ridiculous.
this up.
This is getting ridiculous. Do you not have any other hobbies? Or, you know, this is, I just sit and wait for Slainte.
That was our meeting. We actually had a conversation before
Yeah.
we approached you and we said, you know who has nothing else to do,
Yeah.
clearly?
Let's throw him a
Aaron.
bone. Yeah. He
Let's have
needs
something.
he needs something to do with his day other than just
He's
sitting
just twiddling his thumb.
waiting for Slainte to get in touch.
He's got us on alerts on Instagram.
Yes, exactly. He's got posters of us up on the wall. He's just, you know.
That's why we don't get a whole flat tour.
Yeah, because I haven't shown you the shrine yet.
The Sláinte Shrine.
The Slainte shrine. Say that 10 times faster. Yeah, and now I'm co-artistic director with you guys and having a great time. I don't know. What about you?
Oh gosh.
Where did you come from? What's your story? What's the story?
Where
Yeah.
can I whittle this down? So I was born on a dusty, warm night. That's not true. I was born in November. It's definitely raining in the west coast of Scotland.
Dusty.
So I mean, I think everyone kind of knows this. I grew up in the west of Scotland, so in a village outside of Glasgow, towards Ayr, which had a village arts festival that runs for a month every year. So like our piano recitals were in that. We had choir recitals in that, and although it was like that's the scale that it is. That was a really nice environment to have grown up in because it really like everyone was part of it. But yeah, so like it was a really nice like environment to kind of grow up in. And then from that I did youth theatre a lot, and I did drama at school. I did a lot of arts camps because my parents work, so they were like wheeling me to things they could get rid of me for. And I got really into it then, and I did music and drama all throughout school.
Nikos.
Did Nikos Babes.
I was in Nikos as well, just so you know.
Nikos.
Christopher Bell's.
National Youth Choir Scotland.
Oh.
Yeah.
So I was in a choir in Belfast, the Belfast Philharmonic, and that was partnered with Nikos.
Because
So
a big choral director runs both.
yeah.
Oh, okay.
So he came to us. I was like 14. He was like, "Hey, do you want to go over to Scotland for like a week?" I said, "Yeah, great." So I went over and did like a week residential.
Boys' choir.
In boys' choir. It was a great time. Yeah. So we've got a lot of mutual friends.
So I started Nikos when I was 7 as the area choir. Then I did girls' choir. Then I transferred to national, and then
Here we are.
lost my voice, so didn't go any further. But yeah, so I was always like a singing, dancing, acting kid. Unsurprisingly to anyone, you know, I was the kid that was like, I've made us dance and you all have to watch it on Christmas. And I loved that. I really thought I was going to go into musical theatre, but when I was 16 I got nilled, so I stopped singing and I like stopped training. I then went to Edinburgh uni to try and do a real job and, you know, follow academia and more reliable income streams and more like what my family do. And kind of hated it, really struggled, didn't want to be there. Did a lot of theatre again when I was there, and eventually finished the year, so I have the credits, but dropped out, moved to Glasgow and did theatre and film at Glasgow Uni. When I was there, similarly, I got shockingly and revoltingly involved in student theatre. As in, like, it was my entire personality.
Yeah.
It was horrible. I was on the board for 3 years. I did like 90 productions by the end.
Jeez.
I had the posters up on my walls, like.
Same.
But everyone did. That wasn't just
Yeah.
everyone walked in going, I want to get a hobby. But I very much, when I joined Glasgow Uni, thought I was going to be an actor. And within about 6 months, because I was a big loser and was too keen, I joined like all the committees, and I teched and I production managed and I stage managed, because I just loved being involved. And I learned, like, genuinely within 6 months that I didn't want to be an actor. I kind of learned. I was like, oh, you know what's more fun to me? Getting to like choose plays and program and support people making work. I always find it really like anxiety inducing to perform, and I always felt a bit like, because of my speech therapy when I was younger, I've always felt really nervous speaking in public and things like that. So realised I actually love this side, started doing, that was my first year at uni, so I did a finance course and an entrepreneurship course the next year, because I was like, I'm going to be a producer, I'm going to know what people are talking about. I very quickly was like, I'm not going to have like finance bros talking over my head, I'm going to know what future value is, I'm going to know what dividends are. And I like completely at that moment went, cool, this is it. And then that stayed the same until COVID, where I think, as many people did, have a bit of a doubt, being like, the industry has shut down. I have niched myself exactly to be a theatre producer, maybe film. I still did a lot of film. I was in uni, I still did committees I did the African Motion Festival, you know what I mean, I did things like that, but I very much did theatre. And like, that's what, like, I was known for. I did student council, and people were like, oh, it's Iona, the president of STAG, you know what I mean, like, that was what everyone knew I did. So that was quite hard, and my fringe got cancelled, things like that. So I thought about not doing it. I thought about staying home and going into teaching, which I love working with kids, and I didn't. My mum just said, like, go for it, try it and see, and I did. And I got 2 offers to come to London. I chose Central, and I came and did my master's in producing, and then halfway through that you do placements within Central, so I did that. I got jobs from that, and I've worked. Like, I've produced ever since. That's what I do.
So did you start in Central in 2020?
No, I started 2021. I finished 4th year in 2021.
So when did you start Central?
The exact same year you did, I think. I moved to, I'm also here 2.5 years.
Seriously?
I moved to London September 2021, 19th of September 2021, my sister's partner's birthday.
Wow.
I said that was my gift to him. I was like, don't worry, I'm leaving. And he's like, thank God. I used to give him squirrels. He hated
wild.
it.
That's great. Oh, I mean...
Yeah.
So you were at Central at the same time?
We were at Central
We
the
didn't know
exact
each
same time, never met, because the actors don't mix with it. So all the other masters, there's a course we do where we all do a research project together, but the actors aren't included in that.
Yeah.
Because of, like, they have very strict what they work on and very strict hours, whereas we had a lot more leeway, and we did a lot of like working independently, because like what are you going to sit with a producer doing 8 till 6 every day? Spreadsheets, contracts. They didn't teach me any of that. I did that
crazy that, you know,
myself. I had to learn.
Central at the same time, not here.
Never met.
Wow.
As far as we know, never crossed paths.
Anyway.
But yeah, so that's kind of, I guess, a very long way of saying how I came to London. I came for my master's. When I came down, I thought I'd leave immediately. I thought I'd come do the master's and go.
Interesting. Just to go back to Scotland.
Very much was like, I am Scottish, I'm going to do Scottish theatre.
Interesting.
And then I started working here, and I loved it. I hated it at first.
See, I mean, as soon as I came here, even before I came here, it was always, okay, I'm going to live in London at some point. So when I came here, it was like, okay, I'm here to stay, and I don't see myself leaving anytime soon.
I think I didn't see it that much as an option for me.
Yeah, fair.
I didn't see me ever living in London. I didn't see me ever working in London. And I think and I'm not trying to be like, I lived a very privileged life. I'm not going to pretend I didn't. But I think I just didn't see that pathway in front of me. Because lots of people don't do it in Scotland, I would say. Yeah. And there's very strong opinions as to why.
Yeah, of course.
Still. And I get comments about it, you know?
I think it's interesting because, I mean, ever since I was growing up, it was always, okay, I'm going to live away. I'm not going to live in Belfast for the rest of my life. I think it's a very Irish thing to move. I mean, the Irish are everywhere. It's
the diaspora has spread.
There's more Irish people outside of Ireland than there are in Ireland. so I think that was always, and then obviously living in Cardiff for 3 years, and then going to Glasgow, and then it was like, okay, London's just the logical next step.
I think I thought Glasgow was the biggest place I'd ever see. I say that, obviously I went to China, my dad lives there, but like I didn't think I didn't really think I'd leave Scotland. I thought I'd always be in Scotland. I love where I grew up. I love the community I grew up in. To this day, hands down, I could cry over it. But I just didn't see it, and I think I felt a duty of staying a lot to Scotland, and I find it really hard to leave, and I had a lot of calls with people and a lot of conversations about whether or not it was the right move.
So just going back, so
Yeah.
you don't have any other family like in any creative kind of
No.
in the industry?
My family's from the Highlands.
Yeah,
Like-
because I don't either.
No, I don't
Like
either.
my dad's an accountant, my mum was an accounts lecturer, my brother, well, he's in uni, so but
Yeah.
none of my extended family were in the
No.
arts, so
I'd say none of mine work creatively at all, but I think the creative arts were definitely valued in my house, in that we all played instruments, we all sang, we all did all dance for at least a little bit.
Yeah.
My mum played the piano as a child, so like we were like the Von Trapp family.
Yeah.
Like we did all sing, and we still do. Like my parents have like a village choir that they do. Like that was very much valued. So I grew up in a creative field, but it was seen as a hobby a lot more.
Yeah.
And I remember my mum being kind of shocked, kind of surprised, kind of not very happy, and I understand why, that I wanted to work in the creative industry. That's the only time I've ever fought with my parents,
no.
because they were really quite, not against, that sounds too stern, but like they were quite
Yeah, of
against me
course.
doing it.
Yeah, of course.
Because they'd worked really hard for their lives, and they wanted me to, they didn't want me to like give everything up for an
Yeah.
industry that is unreliable.
I mean, that was part of the struggle I had especially when I was in Cardiff and studying biomedical sciences, and going from wanting to be a doctor or even like pharmaceutical research or something to wanting to be an actor, especially with two parents who were in very kind of traditional jobs.
Yeah.
I mean, my parents are so supportive, always have been, and which is something I'm so thankful for. But I mean, like even from when I was a kid, it was like you were saying, it was always very musical and very, encouraged. Like my parents encouraged me to do everything.
Yeah.
Like whether it was, like playing piano or doing drama or sports or whatever, they were always encouraging, like, do as much as you possibly can. And I mean, ever since I was 4 years old, 5 years old, we were doing school plays, and
Yeah.
I remember coming off and saying to my mum, oh my god, like just the feeling of being on stage, and kind of from there it was that. But my parents were always so supportive, and that's something I think it makes a big difference, and especially something that is it's a really hard, I mean, everyone knows it's a hard industry to go into.
Yeah.
And especially if your parents maybe aren't as supportive, it's tough.
Yeah. I think I want everyone to know that I did play Baby Jesus at 6 weeks old. That's how I got into theatre.
How did that happen?
I'm born in November, and my family were
Oh,
very
yeah,
much in the
makes
village church. So they were just like, baby, come along.
So-
Baby Jesus
so
right
you,
here.
You went full method, you were born at the right time.
Yeah,
everything,
I was like, I'm born. That also was my first life, my personal statement when applying to drama schools.
I played the Baby Jesus.
I was like,
That's a good
I think it was
line.
like, I've always longed to work in theatre, starting from my starring role
Yeah.
as Baby
Who
Jesus
did
in
you
the
guys
Village
play in the,
Nativity.
who did you guys play in the Nativity?
I never did.
Jesus,
anything.
angels.
Yeah.
I can't remember who I was.
And then you know when you stop being cute as a kid when they start making you the shepherd. I, as someone who like did Sunday school my whole life,
Yeah.
and like then when I was older kind of like helped run it, you know, like they go, you're cute, you're cute, you're cute, you're angels. Shepherd, you've like turned 8 and you're not cute. Or if you're the annoying kid, like if you're not cute enough to be an angel, they make you a sheep unless you're really annoying because they know bad the whole time. We know the politics of nativities in this house.
I see,
I grew up in a sectarianist society. I know the politics of nativities.
That's the one thing that binds us as an Irish and Scottish theatre company.
We sit as a company and we're like, ha ha ha, yeah, it's all about identities. Sectarianism?
Sectarianism and bad weather. No, I never did a nativity.
That is crazy.
Never did a nativity.
I didn't actually. I did in my village. I did them all the time, but it's we also walked a donkey down the high street and put palm leaves down every
I really want to go to your village now. Everything you've said about it.
Everyone, all my friends at uni used to laugh because I only call it the village.
Yeah.
I won't ever name it.
Yeah.
Yeah, where is it?
It's the village. It's
The
between
village.
Glasgow and Ayr.
Just outside Glasgow.
And all my friends are like, it sounds like Hot Fuzz.
Yeah.
It sounds like Gilmore Girls. And I would say genuinely, it's like we have a Gallaudet and a Gallaudet Queen. We had wheelie bin races when I was a kid.
Oh, we had a gala.
The Gallaudet!
What's that?
It's like a village fair, but not quite as cool.
Oh.
And we would do a parade from halfway up the hill in the village from Old Simon, if you're locals. Carla McPherson knows what I'm on about. And you do a parade, and old cars drive in it, and then just all the kids dress up to the theme of the Gallaudet. I won best costume one year.
Massive.
And then they like drive you through the village. You do a parade and you go to the park, and there's like just the church has a stall.
Wow.
There's just stalls, you throw coconuts, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And it's
we
in
have,
June,
like,
so it was all terrible weather.
We had actually like fairground stuff, like, you know.
Oh,
concerts and
no.
all that. Like, yeah, because we're like a proper town. Like, we had like.
You're a proper town. Wow. Wow.
No, I mean like we're a proper big town. No, well, our gala days.
We had a slide
Wow. Massive.
and a bouncy castle probably. We did a duck race down the River Calder.
No, we didn't have anything like that. We just like had like all the like big like waltzers and all that
That's
stuff.
wild.
Like,
That's crazy. That's
Yeah.
a big Gallaudet.
Yeah, wow.
In my eyes of my Gallaudet. We always threw coconuts at windmills because my village, I didn't know this until I became an adult. My village was really against windmills
Why?
because we lived.
That's such a weird thing to take a stance on. Windmills? Nah.
I didn't know the politics of it for a really long time, and then as an adult I was like, was I being radicalised? Scottish radicalisation.
Yeah.
Is that I think they wanted to build windmills out the back of my village.
Okay.
Because we're in the middle of the countryside.
Great.
In a valley, so they're like, great.
Yeah.
And there were people in the village really against it. So every gala day they built there'd be a stake and there'd be a windmill on top, and they would give you balls or coconuts and stuff, and you'd lob these balls until you can knock all the windmills down, and then you'd win a t-shirt or a mug that said stop the windmill. And I loved this stall. I did it all the time.
That used to be the name of the podcast.
Stop the windmill.
And now as an adult I'm like, I think I'm in favour of windmills.
It's just this is you know those stories you hear from North Korea or Soviet Russia, and they're Kim Jong-il makes the sunrise in the morning. This is this.
My village, when I've taken boyfriends or friends back to my village,
Yeah.
they find it insane.
That's wild.
Because we have a little a wooden man by our lock, and they're like, is that the Wicker Man? And I'm like, yeah, it might be.
This is insane.
And random men in the village pub will be like, don't you hurt her. And I'm like, don't worry, everyone here knows where I live.
Oh my
and they've seen me take my first steps, and they probably, I remember once I was seen in town, so in Glasgow, with a boy from my village. Just friends.
Okay.
Just friends. But we bumped into a man that was in the same choir as my parents, and his son had gone to primary school with me. And I got home, and everyone knew, and they were like, Iona and insert name here are in love, they're dating, they're married. And I was like, oh, I have a boyfriend. And they're like, who cares? Bottom line, no.
Jeez. Anyway.
But anyway.
Kari.
Oh, that's kind of hoping we could just skip me.
Harry!
We've been talking
Don't worry,
about-
this is all going to be cut.
We're talking about the internal politics of Iona's village upbringing.
It's a great place to be.
Yeah.
I love it.
We're not going to name it. Although, if you listen very carefully, she did. But here, we'll ignore that.
Just the village.
Just
For
the
legal
village.
reasons.
Yes,
the village.
exactly. She signed an NDA as soon as she left. So, Kari, tell us about you. What's your story?
Oh, I have a bit of a weird one. I don't really tell people that often how I actually got into acting and all that.
I don't know if we know. I think we were saying this when we were talking about planning the podcast. We don't know each other's journeys because we don't talk about
I have
it.
a really strange one. When I was in high school, I was a little bit of a nuisance. I didn't enjoy high school. I got excluded a bunch of times. I was quite bad. I was quite a bad kid. And I really didn't enjoy going to school. And there was this one teacher in drama, so we had a substitute teacher for a few months because our drama teacher was on maternity leave, and she like saw something in me that all the other teachers didn't, and like she was like really pushing me to get into drama, but like I didn't want to be a drama kid, like, and then eventually like I was like, you know what, I kind of like this, like I like resentfully was like, you know what, I'm actually like start to like look forward to like going to school and stuff, and yeah, then I got into drama sort of that way. And then did a bunch of things at school, like, and went on to college and done acting there. And then when I was so I went to New College, Lanarkshire, in Scotland.
Inclan,
yeah, up Inclan. So I was there for a year, and then I kind of like made a few friends out Glasgow way, and ended up working with the Young Company with Citizens Theatre, which is pretty cool.
Citizens is a really cool theatre.
Yeah,
it's great. So I was working with them on their and so the first show I'd done with them, they actually gave me the main part, and I was a bit like, oh, look at
you're like, I might be good at this.
I was like, oh wow, I wasn't expecting that. But it was really cool, and then lockdown happened. But actually no, I'd already applied for drama school at this point, and I was on a gap year. I completely missed out. But yeah, when I left college, applied to a few drama schools, and then got into the Bridge Theatre Training Company, which is in Camden, and then I took a gap year because moving to London is very expensive. And with the drama school I was going to, there was no student loans, there was no tuition fees or anything like that, which luckily the Donald Dewar Award in Scotland, big up them, they covered my tuition fees for the 2 years, which is great. So I took a gap year just to save up some money for actually moving down, and COVID happened, which was great. I still was like, you know what, I don't know how long this pandemic is going to go on for, like I need to do something, because I'm just sat at home at my mum's house, like. So I ended up still moving to London, and within like 6 months all that money I'd saved had gone, and I'd like saved up a fair bit like for moving, but it was just like, it was all gone. And then the 2 years at drama school was kind of getting to the end of graduating. I was a bit like, I'd started to do like a little bit of writing, like I'd kind of talked about doing that in the past, but I wasn't really, I don't know, I would just write things and they weren't really that anything. They weren't any good. And then I was visiting Scotland with my partner Ronan, who used to be was a founder.
Was a founder of Sláinte.
Ronan was a founder of Sláinte. And we were sat by Portobello Beach, and we were just talking about how like in sort of London theatre we don't really see like ourselves or like Irish and Scottish voices, and when you do see that, especially like in TV and film and stuff as well, it's always like really bad accents.
Like really bad accents, stereotypical, and like really old-fashioned, I'd say, like stereotypes of what it is to be from there. I don't know, you might not agree.
No, I completely do. I think that's a big part of what we are as a company. I mean, as you say, it's
when
I think that's why
when I moved into London, what's that movie? I have never seen it. Austin Powers. People would always the
oh my goodness, what
was he called? Was it like Fat Bastard or something like that?
I don't know.
The amount of references people would just shout at me about that, and I was like, I don't know what this is.
I was talking about that this morning, like people in my course who I love dearly, but they'd be like, oh, is tartan, like, do you actually wear that? Do you actually wear kilts? Oh, and like, did you know about like this thing, like Mary Queen of Scots? I'm like, sorry, have you heard of the Highland clearances? Like, they wouldn't. There's a really interesting like understanding of Scotland. I can only obviously speak to that. But like in London, and I was talking about that this morning with a Scottish writer, is that people have really like stereotypical weird. People found what I thought were really normal things about my culture, my life, really weird. And I remember like obviously we met and we chatted. And that's like, you came up with the idea for an Irish Scottish theatre company, and then we got connected and we started chatting, and that's kind of like how we moved forward. But like it was, I think it's something that isn't spoken about, is that I remember the first person who ever like fully made me feel like not insane for feeling it was Brian Logan, artist director of Camden People's Theatre. I started working there March 2022. Three. Okay. 3. Yeah. So I did PBJ first. And he, when I met him, he was like, like one of my first days, he came over and was like, so Scottish. Very standard, very standard interaction. And he was one of the first people who was like, isn't the move weird? Because our cultures are different and no one acknowledges it. And I was like, thank goodness you said that, because I'd lived in London for like 18 months by then, maybe. And when I went to Central, people had moved there from like Japan, from the west coast or east coast of America, of the States, from Germany, from Poland. And I remember being in Fringe for the first time post-masters, and I was at drinks with all the producers, and a girl who I love, so sweet, said something like, they were like, oh, is it nice to be home? And I was like, yeah, like I find I'm really homesick in London. And she was like, I don't think you can say you're homesick, but like, I live 12 hours away and I understand it's so different. Yeah. But I think like at the end of the day, I'm from a village in Scotland. The life I grew up in is so different to my life in London.
Yeah. And also I think it's like the expectancy.
People
your life
expect it to be the same.
And that's what kind of makes it more.
There's no allowance for cultural difference, I think, when you come from Scotland.
Yeah, 100%. Where
there is if you come from the States or Germany or Poland or any other place, but because it's the same piece of land, everyone's like, well, the culture is the same, and like the humour is different. The way you speak to people in the street is different. Like I remember my first Sunday, I think it was my second day in London, walking to Central from where I used to live and like saying good morning to people who were cleaning their cars. And they looked at me like I was going to mug them. And I was like, oh, good morning, lovely day. And they're like, and I really hurt in a way, because I was like, oh, I've never grown up in a society that doesn't, like I grew up in a village where like my whole village church was invested in my like growth as a person. So like to have like, I didn't know my neighbours' names for the first time ever. I didn't know loads of stuff like that. You didn't go to the pub and have a random man. That sounds creepy. You had enough creepy random men, trust me. But like, you know what I mean? Like, it was just really different. I think you're right. It's the allowance of being homesick, or the allowance of cultural change between London and England and home for us isn't there.
Yeah, I mean, I think that was, people always ask me, because obviously I've lived in every country in the UK.
That is fun.
Yeah, and people are always like, "Where's the favourite place you've been?" And it's such a hard question because I don't think there is one.
It's Glasgow.
But I think culturally, the people that are most similar to Northern Ireland is definitely Scotland.
I think definitely Glasgow as well.
Definitely Glasgow. Yeah, more than Edinburgh.
Fuck Edinburgh. Sorry.
I'm keeping that in.
I'm also from Edinburgh, I can say that.
No, but I think that's such a big part of, you know, even like the humour and stuff, as you said, the Northern Irish and Scottish humour is so more, it's like so similar in comparison to like the English humour or even the Welsh humour to an extent.
Or even I find as a woman particularly who works in theatre, people think I'm angry all of the time. And I think it's just, I think in Scotland we just speak a lot more to the point and like abruptly. Yeah. Because like I'll be like, oh, can you just do that? And people are like, whoa, okay, you don't need to shout. I'm like, oh no, like please. But like, and people, I think because I'm very like bah, 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 as a speaker, probably what I sound like in most meetings. Like I feel that I had to really like tone back on who I am as a person when I moved to London. That came with my own like anxieties of being a 22-year-old, but like, you know.
I mean, there is an element of code switching, and I mean, my family, every time they're over and I speak to an English person, my accent.
Yeah, my accent as well.
Which I hate.
Someone asked me if I was English when I was in Scotland last time.
Yeah. Even
I've had English twice at work this week from people I work with. Not customers, people I work with. They're like, oh, your English accent. Like, someone was like, oh, like, you've got an English accent. I was like, what?
I get New Zealand.
Really?
I get a lot of Irish, which is insulting to everyone. Not to me, it's lovely to me, but I'm like, don't tell the Irish she said that. Yeah. I get sometimes American, a lot of New Zealand.
Interesting.
I don't hear New Zealand. I can hear the American slightly.
I think I've lived with Americans since I was 17. Yeah. You know?
I mean, I think my accent was always quite soft, and I think it's definitely softened since I've been in London.
Every time my mum talks to me on the phone, she's like, Kari, you sound so posh. And I'm like, I don't mean to.
And it's something I'm so anxious about.
Yeah,
Like,
I hate it. But I mean,
people can be quite mean about it.
yeah, but it's like, but you do always have that code switching, and especially like as actors as well, when you're doing accents and stuff, and you have that ear for, you know, it's just kind of natural that you fall into that. But so you're on Portobello Beach.
Yeah,
you decided, hey, we're going to make a theatre company.
Yeah, essentially, we were just like, you know, we don't really like. We both like knew we wanted to write and create things, and like I wanted to act in things, Rona wanted to direct things, and we were like, why don't we just start a theatre company?
So so then you met Iona, and you were like, hey.
Yeah, I kind of decided like, this is a company. This is like kind of what the work we kind of want to make, that sort of thing. Wanted to bring someone else on board. So yeah, just reached out on like a Facebook page.
I think it was like
and like your friend tagged you in it, and
I can't remember. It's one of two people who did my degree with me.
But then we met up a few times.
Yeah, I remember we had a call when I was working with PBJ.
Yeah, because I was back in Scotland.
Yeah, and it was first thing in the morning, and it was roasting. And then very quickly from that,
Here we are.
dived in.
Started the heads or tails. But I guess not to go back to me. But
go, take the moment.
I feel like and then I kind of from there got into writing, and then I had this idea at the same time as Sláinte for the show, which is now going on, called Shepherd's Warning.
I don't know, will this be out? This will probably be out afterwards, so it went brilliantly.
Yeah. 5-star reviews.
So
Blew the world.
West End transfer?
Yeah. That's what's in the top.
Royal Court next, then we're taking the Lyceum in Edinburgh.
Then when's the Broadway run?
That's under like...
You do the summer, come on. You do the summer hall, then you transfer. We don't know how Broadway works.
So then you wrote Shepherd's Warning.
You wrote Shepherd's Warning with the idea of putting on with Slainte, and then from there I kind of, as much as I love acting, kind of was like, I kind of prefer, you know, being a few steps before like the actual performance and like writing, and
you get that bug for the pre-production.
So you say you prefer writing over acting?
Prefer writing, yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. I think I get what you mean about the pre-production thing, and it's that thing of me as a control freak.
Are we pulling you? Yeah, I think that's my issue.
Yeah, me.
I'm a lovely producer. But it's that you get your hand in every pot.
Yeah.
As a producer, people have to tell me what they're doing.
Yeah.
You know?
So like, but I know that this is what I want to do because I'm writing it, so...
And as an actor as well, I would go into pieces and be like, I kind of like think my character would say this.
Yeah.
Like I kind of like would just start like writing my own
Rewriting the entire
writing my own narrative and things and stuff.
So I get what you mean, but I think I still prefer acting.
Yeah.
I mean, I love both.
I love doing both. I wouldn't want to ever say that I would do one or the other.
You are theatre makers.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You know, that's what they say.
Yeah.
That's the old saying. Yeah.
And then here we are, Shepherd's Warning.
Yep.
Debuting next week.
I know.
Which you're acting in as well.
I know. No, it's honestly been a double imposter syndrome thing. It's like the writing and the acting. I'm like, oh my god, they're gonna hate both of them. Like,
Writing's terrible and the acting's terrible.
Yeah, like so.
Do you ever get that? Plus the fact we just hit a year as a company, and like I remember when we released our stats, I had that moment of being like, damn.
Yeah.
So I was just wondering, like, do you get like the writing, the acting, and also like you are also the company?
I haven't even had a chance to think about that.
But it's your theatre company is putting on a play that you wrote, that you're acting in.
Oh my god.
Which is, you know, but it's like you should be proud of that. It's a big achievement.
Yeah, it's awesome, you know.
Like,
and it's you've had to do work in all of those capacities. You know what I mean? Like I think.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you've had to do the work as a company director to get us to the point that then you as the writer can give over the show to that you as an actor can perform.
I mean, I think it's something people are really bad at is looking. I was like, actually, you know what? I've done a good job.
I did that.
I've done a good job. So obviously, Iona's first role in her illustrious acting career was the Baby Jesus.
I was like, where's this going?
What was your first role that you played on stage? Or just generally?
Apart from the Nativity, I don't feel like I count that.
Oh,
I can't really remember.
I count it.
Are you wiping that from your CV?
Yeah, I've finally I've had a chat with my agent.
Put it on Spotlight.
We said it's time, take it off.
Yeah.
The first role, so like either the angel or shit, I can't remember which one it was, but the first proper role I was Queen Victoria.
Wow.
When I was in primary 3. they gave me it because I just talked so much. I wasn't a theatre kid or anything like that. I just talked so much. They gave me it, and I remember sitting down in a little circle of all the kids that had been chosen for big parts, and I was like, you know what, I quite like this. I quite like this. And then I didn't go back to it for 10 years later. But yeah,
that's so sweet.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
What about you?
What was your first role?
My first role was, I think I was a French bean in Jack and the Beanstalk. I think I was.
I didn't know there were French beans in Jack and the
I think they were looking for roles. I think they were like, God, we've not got anything left. What can we give them?
I was 5 years old. It was.
Oh, bless.
It was in primary school, and it was the junior. So it was from 4 to 8 years old. That was the kind of bracket, and we were the youngest group. We were P1, and they divided our class into 4. So there was runner beans, French beans, green beans, and jumping beans. I think.
Yeah, that game you used to play as kids.
Yeah, so I was a French bean. I think I'd wear tights.
Wow, green tights?
No, just normal tights. I think because it was French. And apparently, and one of those stripy jumper things.
A berry. No.
I don't know if I had to wear a beret. I can't remember. I was 5.
You're all holding the game.
Yeah, with a moustache and Anyway, that was my first role. And then what else did I do in primary school? I played just a misc primary school kid in the. It was an adaptation of Goldilocks. And also Wallace and Gromit and the Curse of the Were Rabbits. Do you remember it was the kind of as one?
What?
And it was
amazing.
The show was set in our primary school, and I was a primary school kid, so I had lines and stuff. And I still remember.
You were credited as primary school.
I was P7 number 1.
I love that. That's so fun.
Yeah, and
I feel like this whole
literally
just made up rules for you.
I love the school. It's what can we give to Aaron?
I can still remember my lines actually. Mr. Armstrong, there's a rabbit in the gym. Can I use my pillowcase to try and capture him?
It rhymed.
Of course, the whole thing rhymed.
Of course it did.
What else?
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I mean,
I played a tree in my primary school assembly, but they took the part away from me because I wouldn't stop fidgeting on stage.
Wow.
But it's really sweet actually. You find it's my primary 1 or primary 2 report card.
Oh, that's nice.
That I found, and it says in it Iona would really succeed in a career in the arts or something, and I love to look at that and be like, oh,
funny. When I was actually, because it was when you were talking about the baby Jesus, you playing the baby Jesus, not the actual baby Jesus.
When Iona's just bringing in religion,
turned into a very different topic of conversation. No, when I was born, my mum's best friend, was there. Mum, I'd just been born, and Mum said, his name's Aaron Devine, and her friend said, "Oh, that's an actor's name."
It is an actor's name.
And so when I decided to be an actor, she said to Mum, "Oh, I called it."
That's really sweet.
Yeah, which is nice.
And you'll tell that on Graham Norton show one day.
I will, exactly. I'll be sitting there and Graham
as he makes fun of your name.
I know. Yeah. So I've got a couple of questions that we're going to ask every guest to the show, but seeing as this is the first episode, I thought I'd introduce it. So first up, favourite Irish or Scottish saying?
I wasn't going to say mine.
What's yours? Go for it. Say it.
No, I don't know.
Why?
I think of pan breed. That wasn't why I was laughing, but
Pan breed?
Pan breed.
Like pan bread?
I think so. It's I'm pure pan and pan breed. I'm
what?
Not, have you not heard that?
No.
Oh, really?
I've never heard it.
Pan breed. It's when you're shattered or you're hungover, or if you're anything, you're no, I'm pure pan breed.
I really hope it is pan bread. But in Scots. And it's just I'm pure pan bread.
I'm just pan bread.
I've never heard that, yeah.
That's wild. That's wild. What's yours? Do you have one?
Gosh, I've definitely said this before as well. It depends if you want a cringe answer or not.
But I'd give us
a cringe
whatever answer.
One.
Mine's kind of cringe.
Is what's for you, no go by you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's nice.
That's
my one was awful.
That's my favourite one.
Yeah, right. It's so that's a bit of a cringe one. What's for you, no go by you.
That's my favourite one.
Sometimes you just need it.
Okay. Favourite pub in London.
Oh.
I have a few.
Pick one. Or, give us your top 3.
Top 3.
This is not promotion, by the way. We haven't been paid to do this.
I like Sheep Haven Bay in Camden.
Okay.
It feels like it's round the back of all the houses. It's in a really residential bit, but you feel like you're in an Irish it's an Irish pub. It's
I don't think I've been in it.
It's the best Guinness apparently in London.
Oh, fun.
They do a full Irish fry and everything, but it feels like a pub back home, and that's why I like it.
Yeah.
My second's probably Falter and Fullback.
It's a good pub.
I don't think it's an Irish or Scottish pub, right?
It's Irish, I think.
Is it?
Yeah.
They say every pub in
True.
London is Irish,
True.
and I'm like, how is it Irish?
It's massive as well. I was there for the first time.
Yeah, that's why I love it. It feels like a tree house.
Yeah,
it's so
great.
cool.
What?
It's
Really
like
cool.
this
Have you never
beer
been?
garden.
It's really cool.
We must go. It's like a beer garden that feels like you're in a tree house because it's just so many levels of a beer garden. That's my
your,
list.
Okay, what about you? Favorite pub or pubs? You don't have. You can take a pass.
I can't think of any.
Wow.
That feels really mean.
Wow. Do you want me to give mine and then you can?
Yeah.
So there's a pub near here actually. Oh,
McGettigan's.
got that. Should know where I live.
They're gonna come. They're gonna break in. They're gonna see this from the outside.
Yeah, the Fox and Pheasant, which is owned by James Blunt.
I think you told me that.
Oh, wow.
I probably have. It's a lovely little pub.
I love James
really
Blunt.
good food. James Blunt.
Great vibes.
Yeah,
This
great
is on
vibes.
the other night.
Great vibes.
And live.
Fox and Pheasant is a great little pub. Yeah, I'll say Fox and Pheasant. Great pint of Guinness, great food. Bit expensive, but hey.
So is London.
It's London, exactly. James Blunt is a fun time. Okay, is there an Irish or Scottish creative that has left a lasting impact on you or that you believe deserves more recognition? You.
Oh.
Iona.
No.
You can say it yourself.
No, I'm not saying myself. Do you have one?
Not at the moment.
Oh, that's helpful.
When you sent these questions,
Yeah.
one that came to mind, I don't think he's even Scottish.
Okay.
But he wrote, when I moved to London, I suddenly became really defensive of the play, The TV at the Stag and the Black Oil.
Yeah.
John McGrath, who wrote that with what are they called? The 786 or something. You're going to have to fact check me. It's a really important piece, I think, of Scottish theatre.
Okay.
That is done quite regularly and I think should be shown a lot more in England, but isn't, and I get why. I think that is a play that I saw at Dundee Rep when I was 15 and meant a lot to me then.
I saw the same one.
And they did it really beautifully, and you finish it with a Cayley.
Oh, nice. Okay.
And they speak the Gaelic and they don't translate it all because the reason we don't all understand Gaelic is because of colonialism.
Did they get people to come up on stage at the start?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was one of them.
And they built the houses and they burn them down and your heart breaks because you're like, oh, we spent ages building those houses.
Yeah.
And then they burn them down and that's because that's what happened. And it looks at the 3 different stages of taking over Scottish land.
Wow. Okay.
And the oil it ends in.
Yeah.
And it's just a really nice piece, and I think that was really important to me as a teen because it's something we're not taught about a lot in skills. But then nowadays, I think there's a lot who make a Brian Logan.
Yeah.
I think at the end of the day is doing in the sphere of theatre that I support and produce. That man does a lot. CPT does a lot.
Yeah. Do you have anyone?
I don't really know. I kind of thought about this and I don't know, because I was thinking of someone you were literally talking, Ellen Bannerman, for example, who runs Simon Pies, and they're not an inheritedly Scottish theatre company, but that is a really big part of their brand.
Yeah.
Is being Scottish, and they held a Cayley and stuff last month, which I was in Edinburgh, so I never went to. But I thought them, and I thought what they were doing down here is pretty cool.
I think we work with a lot of really cool people. I
think the way that people put their identity into the work is really cool.
Yeah, I think it's something that we obviously, it's a really core tenet of our company. Is using that heritage and kind of telling authentic stories, which is something, as you said, that we don't get a whole lot. So it's getting those stories and telling them and getting them across. It's getting better. One of the most affecting films that I've seen in the last while, or the last couple of years, is Belfast.
Yeah.
Because it's about my hometown, and it's about leaving your hometown, in search of opportunity, and even that bit at the end where it's for those who stayed, for those who left, and for those that we lost or whatever. And that Judi Dench's final line was like, "Go son, don't look back." And I was sitting in the cinema, and I'd moved over
I've
here.
got goosebumps right now. I'm not even being dramatic. I'm like thinking about Belfast.
I'm thinking about how amazing that'd be for you. Is I'm like, wow, that line. Like, I would sob as a baby if that were me.
But I mean, that wasn't that long after I'd moved here, and I was sitting in the cinema, and I was crying my eyes out because I was like, I've just moved to London away from home because I'd lived at home for a little bit before I moved here after I left Glasgow, and it was like, you know, when I lived in Glasgow, when I lived in Cardiff, it was always okay, I'm going to move somewhere else after this, whereas here it's like, no, I'm staying. So for it to be like I've kind of said goodbye to Belfast now, and that was really. So, I mean, Kenneth Branagh, you know, he's not. Yeah, go check him out. You know, he's done some interesting stuff. But sorry, what were you going to say?
I was just wondering, like, I found that I for a long time looked for permission to leave, and I was wondering, like, if you did, and maybe if in a way that felt like it gave you permission. That I know Judi Dench isn't the one dictating your life, but like having that line, I do everything for Judi Dench.
Yeah.
Having that line, did that give you? In a way, that form of like permission to leave and permission to be like, I'm allowed to do this, because I felt a lot of shame in leaving Scotland, and I felt really guilty for a long time that I owed it to Scotland, I owed it to the people who raised me, I owed it to family and friends. But
it was something I struggled with for a long time, because especially my extended family, the opportunities just weren't there, and it was that thing of, you know, choosing to go into a career which isn't reliable. You know, you don't know where you're going to be in a month's time. The rejection is there, and it's not a solid, stable job. To take that and to move to London and to kind of leave everything else behind was really tough. And it's something I think I'm still coming to terms with. Funny, I was with a friend of mine who's from England before Christmas, and she asked me, and she said, like, do you ever think you'll move back, and how do you feel about leaving home? And it's that thing of when you go home, you feel like you don't really belong there because you've left.
And people remind you
and
that.
People, and they're like, you know, and the first thing that anyone asks you when you talk to them is, oh, so how's London, how's all this kind of stuff going? And then when you come here, you don't feel like you belong because you're not from here. You know, you weren't born here and you didn't grow up here. So it's that kind of thing of finding a home. And I think a large part of that is the people you're with.
I think it's why like any time we do a Slainte event and being at the Irish Centre as well, like when we're in the drinks after, you're like, oh, this is like what that home feels like.
And talking to someone about, and even just hearing that accent, or, you know, talking about a really niche thing or like a specific place, and it's like that little bit of home again, and it's that shared experience you have with someone else.
You're gonna make me cry. You're making me so emotional, because I think, like, at the end of the day, we started this company for a lot of reasons. We started it because we wanted identities on stage, we wanted this, but like a lot of reason that I think I said this when we first talked, like, that I really cared about coming in is having that community for people. Because my first year in London was so hard. And my entire world pretty much was in Glasgow. Like, that's where I went to uni, I went to school, I grew up so adjacent to. And like learning that difference, I think you're right, like it's even having, like, I went to Kaylee last week and I got upset because there weren't that many Scots there. But then it's also like, I realised there that I now hear an English accent as the norm, and I actually prick my ears up when I hear a Scottish accent or an Irish accent. I find it strange when I go out to Glasgow and like everyone is Scottish suddenly, and I'm like, whoa, what? And for my whole year in Central, I feel like I became like a caricature of Scottish people, and it became like my whole personality. One, because it's kind of put onto me, but two, it was like this like desperate clinging to like that one thing I've always known that I don't have anymore, and people don't understand. I
mean, when I moved to Cardiff, I I was just out of school. I was 19.
Baby.
Yeah.
19.
19.
I forget you guys did uni longer. I was like, I was 17.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
you
because
did. High school goes later as well.
Yeah. So I was 19, went to Cardiff, and I didn't know anyone there. You know, none of my school friends were there. You know, it was just this completely alien place. I had to make a completely new set of friends, which I hadn't had to do since I was starting primary school, you know. And that was crazy. And that thing of, oh, you're the Irish guy.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, actually, that's, you know, there's a whole lot of history there, which it surprises me that people don't know as well.
Yeah.
So it's like, kind of, you're finding out your own identity through the lens of someone else, which is hard. And then, you know, when I moved to Edinburgh, Edinburgh? Why do I keep saying Edinburgh?
Babe!
Not Edinburgh.
I genuinely, we went...
Yeah, I didn't live in Edinburgh. Well, I did for a month, but that was for the fringe.
I don't think you can count...
No, when it's...
Fringe is not Edinburgh.
Yeah, I can't say I lived there. But no, when I moved to Glasgow, one of my best friends from school was there. My girlfriend at the time was there. So I had that kind of base, and obviously Glasgow, as I said, culturally quite similar to Northern Ireland. But then when I moved here again, it was like, well, suddenly I'm like, a whole new set of friends, whole new place. London's massive. And it was no one on my course was from Northern Ireland or even Ireland or Scotland. It was just like, you know, it's kind of finding that thing of where do I belong, and finding that home away from home, and not even home away from home, just home generally. And then, you know, Sláinte, and as I said, hearing the accents and hearing stories that actually tell you what it's like to be from where you're from, you know. And I'm actually feeling a bit emotional, don't I?
Right? I know.
It's that thing. I don't think you can experience it until you've lived it, you know, or you can understand it until you've lived it. It's that thing of not feeling like you belong anywhere, really.
That's what we, I guess, are trying to make, is have that.
Yeah, to have that kind of home away from home, of that community of like-minded people in London that kind of have the same experiences and want to have that home together, you know.
Yeah.
But like, if you offered me to move home, I wouldn't move home. I love it here. Don't get me wrong. I know I've just talked about how much I love home. I love it here, and I love...
It's just so different.
The people here, and the vibrancy, and the multiculturalism, and everything.
Yeah.
It's amazing. And the opportunity here that just sadly isn't in Belfast or really anywhere else in the UK. What advice would you give someone moving to London from where you're from?
I would say what I said was go to like a lot of like off West End shows. Is that the like, and just like fringe productions? Go to a lot of that, like networking nights. Like honestly, like I like not even just Sláinte scratch nights. I've done other scratch nights with different companies, and I've met so many people that way, like from so many different like backgrounds and stuff, and just like the amount of like collaborations I've had from there. I've just been like meeting someone at this scratch night, or like working with them on that, or seeing them work with someone else and being like, oh, I've got this thing. Like that's been so useful, just to like collaborate with people. Come to Sláinte. If you're Scottish or Irish, what are you doing? Come to Sláinte. Come to the nights.
Yeah, just come for a pint. You know, or if you don't drink, you don't need to drink.
Yes.
No. A big advocate of not drinking.
Yeah.
You know, come along, have a chat, because it helps so much. I think you're right. Like walking in and having a voice that you know,
big time,
and seeing that on the stage as well, and like feeling like I think my main bit of advice would be like not to. It sounds like kind of cliche, but like I find myself like I have a lot of friends who have moved down from here, down from Scotland or like elsewhere, and like I find it quite hard getting caught up in like comparing myself where I am in my career to other people, even though like, you know, there is things going on with me. I can't help but look at other, like Instagram is so toxic for it. You just see things all the time, and it just, I think not to get caught up in other people's like kind of being able to celebrate your friends' successes without comparing yourself is so important.
What would your advice be?
I'm actually really protective of people that I know that moved down. Like I can't call her Carla McPherson. Carla McPherson is from the same village as me.
Yeah.
And like I was so happy when she got involved with Sláinte. I think is it people who want to work in the arts from the west of Scotland? Is that who I'm speaking to? I think it's, I mean, moving down. I remember I said to someone, like, I don't have a network. How am I meant to get jobs? How am I meant to get placements? How am I meant to do this? And they were like, give yourself grace. And I think that's right, as much as I said it and I'm walking.
Yeah, when you said it, I was like,
I was like, and they said it in an inopportune time because I needed practical advice in that moment. But I think you need to give yourself grace because, and it's not the same for everyone. I think some people move down, run with it, love it. I really struggled with it. And I wish I'd given myself more grace and given myself more time to call home and be like, I hate it. I hate it here, because I was so determined to make it the right decision that I didn't want anyone to think I was doubting it. Yeah. When in fact I doubted it for the first 18 months I was here.
I think mine would be kind of similar, just similar to both of yours actually. Just get yourself out there as hard as it is to put yourself out there, to go to these events, to, especially if you don't know anyone else that you can go with, just to go by yourself. You're not going to look weird. Everyone
is lonely in London.
Exactly.
That's what I've learned. Everyone wants another friend, because that post-uni pathway or post-whatever pathway, everyone's at a point of like, you know, I know people who born and raised London, 30 years old, and they're like, hey, do you want to go to the pub? And everyone's just nervous to ask each other to do something. We all are. I would love to go to the pub with anyone and everyone, you know. And if you don't want to do it that night, don't do it. It's fine to like, not.
There's no pressure to do everything and, you know, be friends with everyone. But the communities are out there. There are people out there who are lovely and who have the same experiences as you and will welcome you with open arms. And I mean, there are several communities, like you mentioned, Slainte Pies, there's Talkers and Doers, there's loads of them. There's us, obviously. Gutter Street's great, you know, Ricochet Theatre. There's loads of them.
Yeah.
And not even, like, even if you're not a creative per se, you just enjoy the arts. You know, these people.
So you did it at uni, for example. Some of our audiences, like some of your friends, did it at uni, work in completely different sectors now, but still, like, that's a big part of them growing up, part of their life. So they come along and they come and they get a pint and they have a good laugh.
Exactly.
And,
one of my best friends works in renewable energy, but we know each other from the Drama Society, and he comes to loads of our events and absolutely loves them. How does heritage influence your work?
I think because all I really kind of write from is like kind of like my sort of, because I'm quite new to writing. I do really speak from like my kind of voice as a working class or queer person, and well, not always. It doesn't. They're interchangeable, but like all these different things.
Intersections.
Yeah, exactly. So a lot of what I write in very. Someone told me it was Scots recently, and I was like, that's not what Scots is. They're like, but like I write in a lot of like colloquialisms, and I write really from the dialect that the characters are from, and like my work is very like heavy and reliant on that. And I think even just like the stories I tell, and it's like about like I always tell stories that are either from people I know or like someone what I know has told me this, but it's very much like from like, you know, our like kind of little town sort of lives, I guess. I've not really I would love to at one point branch out further in my writing, but that is, at the moment, my work is very Scottish heavy, and I don't see that changing anytime soon.
Yeah, well, I mean, everything that I've seen that you've written has been Scottish stories.
It's like, all based in Hive in Edinburgh. Hive till 5.
What about you?
Yeah, I think, I mean, even my like pitch as a producer is that I grew up in a village, and that's why I work in like community theatre, and that's not maybe what people traditionally think of as community theatre, but why I work in subsidised theatre that is about bringing identities to the forefront who aren't usually seen, and about bringing people into a creative space. And it's that James McAvoy quote, I'm gonna summarise it, but he says like, when you deny access to the arts, you deny access to dream.
Yeah.
And that's why it's really important that's why I work in creative engagement, that's why I work in artist development, that's why I work in these like upcoming bits of theatre, is because I'm here because of XYZ reasons, but there are people who are from where I'm from back home who can't be here for those XYZ reasons, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like my knowledge of that informs that everything I do wants to be able to bring as many people in as I can. That's why I produce what I produce. That's why, you know, I produce the way I produce. That's why I'm a very people-led producer,
So
you know?
do you feel like you have a responsibility then to those people back in Scotland that you grew up with to produce things like that do represent them?
I think I feel I have a responsibility as someone who is in a position in this industry to create work that people I know could watch and could see and would enjoy. But I've worked with other companies where like we've had conversations about the fact that growing up that they would never get the opportunity to see the show or the programme because of XYZ reasons. And I think, I feel as someone who's like just a very like society community person, because I was raised in one who, you know, that's why I'm here, feel that I need to do everything I can to bring that back to them. And that can be different communities. Like obviously I work in like there's shows that I produce that, you know, my village is not at all represented in, or people that were from my village, but I know that that's a community that works the same way mine did, you know. So I think I feel a duty of care in that way, and a duty of I don't know, like I owe it to them in a way. I owe it to the people who got me where I am to give them something back, or to make a lasting legacy of you know, the people my mum who drove me around Scotland to every extracurricular. That happened now so that children who could never, you know, see a show for so many circumstances, they get that and they get that chance to dream. Yeah. And that's enough. You know, like if I die tomorrow, I know, touch wood won't, but I know that I have made work that has made at least one person be like, I feel like I've been supported, I feel like I've been seen, I feel like I get that tiny sparkle of magic to be like, oh, I'm not alone, and there's more than what I could see. Which is such a cringy reason.
No, but it's true. I mean, I think it's something that I actually want to do more of in my own work, my own writing especially, is talk about more about my heritage, where I'm from, because pretty much everything I've written, actually everything I've written ever, hasn't been about me or where I come from. And it's something I really want to, and like actually it's a dream of mine at some point in the future to write a series about Northern Ireland, particularly about the Troubles and kind of growing up,
and residual.
And I mean my parents lived through the entirety of it, you know, and because it's such a small place, there isn't one person in Northern Ireland that isn't directly affected by it, and I think so much of what we see is the kind of the extremes, but I really want to focus on what it was like to be a normal person who didn't really care about what was going on, who wasn't out fighting and was just trying to live their life, and the effect that it had on them. Because I mean, that was my parents, and like they would tell stories about them, and you know, when they were growing up with their, you know, with their families and kind of the stuff that they had to go through, and it was just normal. I'm so blessed that, I mean, I was born in 98, which was, you know, the year the Good Friday Agreement was signed, and you know, that's when everything ended. So I didn't have to live through it, but you know, we talk about that as a family, and you know, we say, like, imagine if that all kicked off again. How would we even? You know, they wouldn't live. Like my mum and dad still live in Belfast. They would move. You know, because it's just. But for them, growing up, that was normal. So I would love to write something about that, and kind of as you said about your mum, you know, driving you around all these extracurriculars. I would love to dedicate something to my mum and dad. And as I said earlier on, they've been so supportive of me, and I would love to kind of to pay that back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah. Shall we end it there? Yes, thank you so much for, if you're still listening, if you're still watching, who knows, maybe you aren't. Give us a follow on Instagram. We are Sláinte Theatre. On Instagram, on Twitter, X, whatever. We've got a website, www.slainetheatre.com. Get in touch. We've got email addresses. You can find it all. This will be out everywhere that you can listen to your podcast. Leave us a review, 5-star review. If it's not 5 stars, we don't want it.
If there are any problems, let us know. If you want to phrase it, let them know.
Get in touch with us directly and we can tell you exactly why you're wrong. Thank you. This has been fun.
Yeah.
I know. Sláinte.
Sláinte.
Sláinte.